William, thanks for coming out here and talking to me about this.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate
Bernie.
it so much. And I look forward to this project moving forward.
I am so looking forward to the project also. It's going to be a great film. And the beauty of the film that is it's not going to be a story about the Civil War.
No,
It's not going to be a story about this country. It's going to be a human story about these two men who grew up from two entirely different backgrounds.
Two entirely different classes and cultures
Two
and
entirely
everything.
different classes and culture.
Yeah.
And were intermingled into a personal relationship through a lifetime of activity, through a lifetime of companionship, even in the midst of the antebellum period where they weren't supposed to have that type of relationship.
Exactly. And it was tolerated. This was kind of an insular community. It is an island. The social events here were among farmer friends,
Yes.
more so than they were elite socialites.
Right.
And I think that may have helped have a somewhat more civilized connection, because the people that lived here, even the people that owned the plantations, were very much people of the land.
Yes.
And had at least that connection with the slaves. Now, how many bondsmen or slaves were on retreat? It was about 150 or so?
It was approximately 150 bonds people, slaves, if you will, at Retreat Plantation, if my memory serves me correctly. But prior to that, Thomas Butler King, he had several other plantations outside of Glenn County.
That's right.
And he was one of the larger slave owners in the area before he went bankrupt.
Right.
I think he owned in excess of 400 slaves, close to 500 slaves. But the beauty of the situation at Retreat Plantation, when he did lose his plantations, when he did go bankrupt, Retreat Plantation was reserved for his wife by her father's will. So
This was a separate holding,
Totally
not at all
separate
owned by
holding.
him. I see.
So the slaves at Retreat Plantation weren't subject to being sold because of the misfortune of Thomas Butler King going through bankruptcy.
His bankruptcy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's such a complicated time and such a complicated history, but the story we're telling is really between Neptune and Lordy.
Neptune and Lordy.
And then we talked a little bit about this connection he had with Tip,
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
The story continues after
Yes.
Lordy's death.
Yes.
And that makes it even more remarkable that, well, you tell the story. What did Neptune do after Lordy died?
Well, Richard Cuyler King, Tip as his family called him, he was the baby boy of the family. He was the youngest king's son. And he joined the Georgia Sharpshooters. That was the Confederate group that he was associated with.
Okay.
Well, when Lordy King died in the Battle of Fredericksburg and Neptune brought his body back to Savannah, the King family told Neptune that he didn't have to do anymore. He's done enough. You know, you've already been up there with our son, Lordy. And Neptune...
This was after he brought his body
This
back.
is after he brought his body back.
Okay.
Now, the youngest son, Tip, Richard Cuyler, was still up in the north fighting. And Neptune, on his own, decided, well, Tip is still up there, and I need to go up there and see about Tip. So, Neptune, being the intelligent man that he was, the brave man that he was, the extraordinary man that he was, found his way from Georgia back up through the southern states to the northern states where the Civil War was happening, found his way to where the Georgia sharpshooters were being camped, what battle they were in. He knew exactly where to go, found Richard Cuyler King, and was with him for the rest of the Civil War. Now, Richard Cuyler King was captured. I don't remember what the battle was, but he was captured and imprisoned before the Civil War ended. And when he was imprisoned, of course, Neptune did not get imprisoned with him, but Neptune was able to come back to St. Simon's Island after the imprisonment of Richard Cuyler King.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a prisoner of war at some point. So after the war, Richard Cuyler survived. Neptune King obviously survived.
Yeah.
And came back to St. Simon's Island.
And lived to be a right, healthy old man.
Yes, he did.
And the last thing that we've got time for in our talk today is we know some of the details of the story based on an interview of 1902
Yeah.
in a newspaper which I can't track the name of, but it has been saved. It's the Dart interview.
Yes.
And in it, Neptune recounts the pivotal moments and the main steps he took along his life. And what I think was the final impetus for me to move from being an interested historian reviewing this story to somebody who wanted to turn it into a film was the depth of emotion that Neptune showed when he was discussing events of 50 years prior that so choked him up.
Yes.
He had to ask for the interview to please be over. I just can't do any more today. And that's the point we've reached in our story. We've gotten to a point now where we know a lot of the story. I've come to know you very well.
Yes.
We've gotten to talk specifically about a man we both hold in great admiration. You very, very much so as the proud descendant of this incredible, really giant man in terms of his commitment to his family, his exemplary status as far as his commitment to what he said he would do. And this is the kind of story that I think needs to be told so we can get a broader picture of what this country was like 150 years ago.
Yeah.
William, thanks so much for coming out.
Thank you,
I
Bernie.
appreciate it. Thank you so very
Appreciate
much.
it. Good deal.
All right. Thanks
Bye-bye.
again.
Well,
Pretty blonde girl, long hair, nice.